If you are a real estate agent and you are tired of paying for ads that flat out don't work, cold calling, door knocking, all the same old stuff that just seems to be getting you stuck in a rut, well, this is the channel for you. We are three rockstar agents who have come together with over 50 plus years in the training and sales industry, and we are hoping to pass that knowledge on to you. So subscribe to the channel and get ready to learn. Let's get started.
I want to share. I got a couple things. This is like the funniest thing to summarize the kind of the market that we're in. I just sent a request to share. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna play this for you guys because this is the funniest. Like one of my very dear friend summarized this in one video. So let me. I'm gonna play this video for you guys real quick. So he's like, this is like the market that we're in right now. This is like the scene.
I was scared, but Lieutenant Dan,
There you go.
he was mad.
Carmen came through here yesterday, destroying nearly everything in its path. And as in other towns up and down the coast, Biola Battery's entire shrimping industry has fallen victim to Carmen and has been left in utter ruin. Speaking with local officials, this reporter has learned, in fact, only one shrimping boat actually survived the storm.
Louise, that's fast.
After that, shrimping was easy. Since people still needed them shrimps for shrimp cocktails and barbecues and all, we were the only boat left standing.
That's exactly the situation we're in, right? That is exactly the market, right? And we are in the middle of the storm, and as long as we stay in the fight, right? As long as we keep doing the things consistently, keep doing the things every day, the things within our control, when the storm passes, right? This too shall pass. We're going to be the only boat in the market, the only shrimp boat, and shrimping's going to be easy. And that's exactly kind of the message that we need to really latch onto. One of the images that I've shared the last couple years, and typically open every presentation, everything that I do with the slide, is the image of the American bison covered in snow. And if you understand what that image represents and understand, that the American bison is the only animal that it just instinctively turns and faces and heads into the storm when a storm is coming, instead of going around running. It's like when we're in the storm, there's only one way through, and that's just progress, head down, and keep moving. And so I can promise you that if you're not in a storm's coming. Or if you are in a storm, guess what? It's going to pass. You just have to stay in the fight. And it's just a great reminder for where we're at, because, just having the opportunity to work with agents all over the planet now, right? Thanks to EXP, is that, listen, it's hard. 20 years in this game, similarities to maybe 7, 8, 9 timeframe. But I can promise there's always an opportunity. There's always a way through. You just have to focus and really get into the things and really focusing on the things within your control. So I think that's the perfect scenario. It's just funny watching that and thinking about it. And my very dear friend, Mr. Blake Sloan, that's their rally cry, right? They're like, listen, we're in it every day. We're fighting the storm. We are going to be the only shrimp boat standing when this storm passes. And so we just have to be ready for when that happens. So it's just a great reminder. So Kathy, I really want to jump in. I know we were kind of pinging back and forth of where kind of real value to the group would be. For me, I work really well off of questions just because I have such a unique perspective of owning and operating two different brokerages in polar opposite markets, from Lawton, Oklahoma. For me, I walked into an already successful organization. That year, the team, I came on board in October. That team, we closed out 340 units that year, went on to 430 and then 521 2 years after that, which represented 20% market share. So just give you guys kind of an idea, 500 transactions was 20% market share. And we got throttled. We went head to head with the top 10 Remax team on the planet every day, and they beat us. They did geez, I bet they did. They did right at 700 units that year that we did 520. They throttled us, which was good, which was really good for us. And also average sales price of 120,000. So that was really kind of the blessing for us, I's dotted, T's crossed, and where we had to kind of learn and navigate through that point. What was really interesting during that run up to that point is that we were just winging a lot of it, honestly. And we were stressing our way to that point. When you stress, you can only stress so far. And most people don't have the guts, the fortitude, the grit to push through hard things. And listen, you can stress your way, but you're going to leave a wake of destruction in that path. And so for us that year, we were in the worst shape that we had ever been in. I look back at there was a golf event, and there was a picture that we took at that golf event, and not even recognizable, Kinder or myself. And it was just, I was like, damn, like we burned a lot in that run, failing marriages, drinking every day, not to celebrate, but because we felt like we had to. And it's not the right way to go about it. And so, riding through 7, 8, 9, coming out on that other side is where the turning point for us was. And we learned 3 valuable lessons in that period of 10, 11, and 12 timeframe. And we implemented 3 key things that turned our business around. We were doing, obviously, still in Lawton, Oklahoma. I hadn't made the move to Texas yet. That was in 2012, 2013. And so really nailing kind of the model. We're like, can we get profitable running a team without being in production in a low price point market? And the answer was yes, absolutely. And so we did 3 key things. The 3 key things were, one, we implemented a business operating system. And for us at that time, it was working with Vern Harnish on mastering the Rockefeller habits. Most of you are probably a little more familiar with EOS. And the entrepreneurial organization system, implementing VTO, FAC, functional accountability charts, cadence, meeting rhythm, things like that. And so we implemented that in, and that was really key. The other was we developed what you guys, a part of Honey Badger Nation, have access to, which is CHSA, Certified Home Selling Advisor, and CHBA, which is Certified Home Buying Advisor. Having a proven system, a proven process to be able to articulate your value to buyers and sellers. And what was happening up until that point was a lot of me monster presentations. Look at our awards, right? Look at our accolades. Look at all the things that we've done. Look at all the things that we've accomplished. Trust us, right? We've sold X number of homes. We've been top 10 in the world for Caldwell Banker. Like, just trust us. That doesn't work, right? You got to have a proven system. And then the third component was implementing a financial model, right? Really understanding top line revenue, cost of sales, profitability. You only have so many dollars to put the best team on the field with salaries and expenses and marketing allocation. Once we made those 3 moves, listen, guys, we were doing, it's funny to tell. We were doing about $1.5 million top line revenue out of Lawton, Oklahoma, right? And so that was a big deal. But we were at -3% profit up until that point. -3% profit. And once we implemented and understood those three components, within 3 months, we went from -3 to 14. That's a 17% turnaround on the bottom line without being in production. So there's ways to turn it. I run a conversation called Expert Mentors Live, and I don't know if you guys have ever caught any of the Expert Mentors conversations. Expert Mentors started 7 years ago when we came over to EXP. And have you ever, missed a meeting and then you find that you're responsible for something because you missed the meeting? Well, that happened to me. I couldn't show up to the meeting. So Kyle Whistle and Dan Beer reached out to Kinder and said, hey, we need to get on a call. And I was like, damn, man, I can't make it. And I said, Kinder, fill me in. And so, called me that evening and he said, I'm going to fill you in. You are now going to be running a new show called Expert Mentors Live. And I was like, hey, thanks. So Whistle came to, and he said, listen, we have so many amazing rock stars here in Honey Badger Nation. We need to showcase them and let them give back. So if you guys haven't caught any of the Expert Mentor series, we just finished episode 295 last week. Mr. Kyle Whistle was the guest. That was the fourth time he's been on. He really broke down the five keys of growing your real estate business moving into the future. If you haven't guys caught it, go catch it. It's on. You can go to EML Replays, or you can go to my YouTube channel, John Kitchen's Coach. They're all there, all 295 episodes. And Kyle's incredible, as you guys know. So having the number one, team at EXP, one of the top teams on the planet, for him to just basically open up his playbook, is worth checking out. But the first thing he said was, have a business operating system. That was his number one key. Have that operating system. So wherever you guys are operating with, right, you've got to have a plan. And you've got to know what the goal is and constantly asking yourself, is that really the goal? So I want to break down a concept of how my brain works and how I think and look at everything, right? And so I think this will be really valuable for you guys to understand this concept. And then I'll unpack the phases of real estate and take you through those stages, to be able to, kind of identify where you're at. And more importantly, where you want to go. Because once you have that combination of where you're at and where you want to go, then it's just getting the plan in place and then executing, right? Learning how to take action the right way, focusing in on, what the activities that really matter. So I'll open this up and then open it up for questions. Like I said, just that unique perspective, owning and operating out of Lawton, Oklahoma, then into Dallas, Texas, polar opposite market. So being able to see and operate, brokerages from those vantage points, as well as, in my 13th year, going into my 14th year of one-on-one coaching, just like Kathy said, we hit, 2 weeks ago, we hit 10,000 hours of one-on-one coaching. So, and I think Thursday we'll hit 17,000 one-on-one coaching calls. I say that just because I just have a unique perspective. I can promise you there's not a situation that I've either not personally dealt with or gone through or helped coach somebody through. Like, throw it out there. Yeah, done it. Just let your mind run wherever you want it to run. And I can promise, yeah, we've handled that before. So, but I want to share this because these are frameworks and tools that you want to have in your tool belt with you at all times, right? To be able to accurately think through things. I'll give you guys a couple book recommendations that I feel are paramount for you guys to consume and get the concepts out of, because those will also go into your tool belt. But let me share this first. This is going to be super important to get through. Kill that. I'll come back to that. So I want to take you through here. This our one of our first mentors in implementing that business system, but a guy by the name of Vern Harnish. And Vern wrote Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, which is what we were introduced to strategy, strategic planning, strategic thinking was through Vern. Then we moved in with Gino, going through Traction, the EOS system. It was just easier for us because Vern got to scaling up after Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. And what I would tell you, you can utilize EOS up to 10 million, right? Being a 10 million in revenue, not 10 million in volume, 10 million in revenue. Then you probably need to jump back over to scaling up. It's a little bit higher level. But his number one book recommendation is this book right here called The Goal. And I never understood when he would tell us this. And it took about a year before really diving into this book. And I would listen to it. This is one I would listen to. I would get it on Audible and listen to it. It's in a fable format. So they're telling a story about this gentleman that has runs. He's responsible for running a manufacturing plant It also into constraints with his relationship with his wife as well as his son. And in the story with his son, he is in some type of like Boy Scout, where they go on hikes and camping and stuff like that. And they introduce a character in there by the name of Herbie. And Herbie is the overweight, awkward kid that packs too much stuff in his backpack and moves a little too slow, right? To keep the kids moving and on their hikes. And so that's where Herbie comes from. And Herbie is essentially a constraint. And so the whole book is about theory of constraints. And so when you think about our life and our business, there's a constraint somewhere. So you take our real estate business, leads come in, right? That's raw material. And then at the end of the conveyor belt is a closed transaction. So what has to happen from a lead to a closed transaction if it was on a conveyor belt? So you've got a lead, you've got to engage in the lead, then you have to have a conversation with the lead, then you're going to have an appointment with that, then you're going to articulate your value of why they would want to work with you to help them accomplish their goal of buying and selling. And then you've got to fulfill on that promise, either get it sold or get them into a home. Then you go through the closing process, and then you have a closed transaction. I would say, and this is where I would challenge all of you, is to extend that conveyor belt out. Deal's not done until they send you a referral. So think about that. If you had to get a referral from every client for it to be considered a done deal, you're gonna focus on the experience. You're gonna over communicate. You're gonna add as much massive value as you can because you want to have a great experience, so great for them that they tell others about it and they come and experience you as well. So that's the conveyor belt in our business. Well, what about the conveyor belt in our life? It's all about getting results. And if you're not getting results, it's because of your actions or inactions. Well, what drives our actions? Our actions are driven by the way we feel. How we feel is driven by what we think and what we believe. And what we think and what we believe is driven by the environment, the people that we surround ourselves with. So I promise you, in those two examples, you have a constraint somewhere. Herbie is sitting somewhere. So go back to the business side of things. You're like, damn, John, I don't even have enough raw materials. I don't have enough leads. Okay, I'm going to give you 1,000 seller leads, 1,000 motivated seller leads today. Guess what? You no longer have a lead problem. You have a conversion problem. So Herbie went from lead. Now Herbie is sitting on your conversion. And then it's like, okay, well, let me get through my conversion. Okay, great. So you talk to all 1,000 people, 100 want to do business now. Oh shit, right? Now you don't have a conversion problem. Now you have a fulfillment problem. Now you got to fulfill on the promise and get their home sold. Okay. So somewhere in your business, somewhere in your conveyor belt, I promise you, you have a constraint. And that's the way you need to think about it. Good strategy is solving the right problem. Bad strategy is not even addressing it. So I promise you, every one of you on this call has a constraint. And most of the time, it's one of those two things. Now, for those of you rock stars, you might have a bunch of listings starting to stack up. Now you got a fulfillment problem, right? Now you got to deal with angry sellers that can't remember this market, 10 years ago. So now their home is sitting on the market. Days on market is creeping up, right? We are definitely in a buyer's market. The data just hasn't caught up to prove it. So now you're having to deal with this situation with this. So there is a constraint somewhere. And so that's where I want you guys to be thinking about, and how do I remove my constraint? And remember, you're going to remove your constraint. Now you're going to have a new constraint. And this is all you need to be thinking about. Theory of constraints. Theory of constraints. Where is my constraint? Where's my constraint? And the first thing that you guys want to make sure is that first constraint is not in your head, right? In the way you're thinking about things. Because how you're thinking about it, go back to my other example, that other conveyor belt. Because if I'm thinking about it the wrong way, and if I think about it too long, I'm going to form a belief. And then that's how I'm going to feel about it. And if I'm going to feel about it in a negative way, it means I'm going to take a negative action or no action. Therefore, no result. So I promise you've got a constraint somewhere, and it's just going about how you're thinking about it. Those are the questions you need to be asking. Those are the conversations you need to be having. Those are the books you need to be reading. Those are the trainings you need to be in. I quit doing it. There was a long period of time, people like to get on social media and be like, man, I'm looking for a good book. What book recommendations do you have? My first question, what problem are you trying to solve? Do you know, out of probably doing that a couple dozen times, do you know how many people answered that question? Zero. Zero. See, it's more of, I want some attention. Tell me what I should be reading. It's like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to solve? Then I can give you those recommendations. So I just want to make sure you guys are thinking about your business, thinking about your life the right way. And if you're struggling with this, I've got, these are two of top, they're in my top 3, these 2 books. Number 1 is The Gap in the Gain by Dan Sullivan. If you guys don't know who Dan Sullivan is, he is a strategic coach. He is the coach to all of the small business entrepreneurs that are doing anything in this world. They have gone through Dan Sullivan's program. They've gone through strategic coach. And he has maybe 50 different concepts, and he has a book for every one of them. Well, Who Not How is another concept of his, and that was the first book made to public out of 40 years of coaching that he brought to public in 2020. Well, after that, he followed it up with The Gap in the Gain. And what happens is that most of us draw into comparisons, right? We draw into comparisons, or why are they so much further ahead than I am? And that puts us into the gap. Where we get into the gain is measuring our progress of how far we've really come. And that's really hard for entrepreneurs, people that like to drive, to set back and reflect on how far you've really come. So the gap in the gain is an incredible concept. That's a tool that's in your tool belt. It's not in the toolbox. It's not in the tool shed. That's with you at all times, because I promise you there's a half a dozen times a day that we fall into comparison mode, and we start to be like, damn, man, why are they better than me? Why are they? It's like, no. How far have I really come? Right. And measuring progress from that way. The other book is a Napoleon Hill book called Outwitting the Devil. The reason that this is in my top 3 is because of the concept that it covers. See, Outwitting the Devil is just a story around the concept of accurate thought. So if you guys have paid any attention to Napoleon Hill other than Think and Grow Rich, before that, he wrote The Laws of Success. The 1617 laws of success. And he says in there, the number 1 law of success is accurate thought. Outwitting the Devil's just a fantastic story around, even how the book came to be, right? When Sharon Lechter took over the Napoleon Hill Foundation, she was the one in 2010 that released the story Outwitting the Devil that had been locked away since he wrote it in 1910, 1920 timeframe when he wrote Outwitting the Devil. And so it's a good story, the conversation with the devil. And I would listen to that one too, because of the comparisons in voice of the conversation. But the whole book, guys, is around accurate thought. And what they talk about in that book is that 97 to 98% of the population is in what they call the drift. And the drift is just fear. Most people spend their lives, 98% of the people that are in a state of fear. And so they're in a drift. And the only way to get out of the drift is with accurate thought and utilizing tools like theory of constraint, mental models, mental concepts. The way you think strategically is so important right now and moving into the future. And especially having AI as kind of our thought partner. I don't know how aware of the leadership at EXP and the decisions and how they operate on a day in and day out basis. Glenn and the leadership team, they have built custom GPTs for every function at EXP. Listen, the number 1 brokerage on the planet is being driven by custom GPTs. Think about that for a second. So if you've listened to Glenn any at all in the last year, everything is around AI, but utilizing it as a thought partner, not driving and doing mundane things for you, but really being able to use it as your thought partner strategically. The book Kindle. So I've learned my lesson, right? People have told me to read certain books at certain points, and I've let it sit on the shelf sometimes for too long. I didn't let this one sit on the shelf. So we were at, I had the opportunity to go out and be a part of the Seattle rally. And so Glenn, obviously living right there, came in. So Glenn was at the Seattle rally, and we did a VIP deal the night before. And just a little informal meet and greet. We had Carrie, head of luxury, Glenn, Debbie, Kendall, Georgia, Tush, and myself. And Kendall said a couple times, because I was picking up what they were talking about and everything with AI and the focus. And she's like, listen, get a copy of The AI Driven Leader by Jeff Woods. I said, ordered. I ordered it right there that night. And I started listening to it. I would get both. I would listen to it and get the hard copy of it. That is the foundation of how to think about and utilize AI moving into the future as your strategic thought partner. So I would definitely lean into that, because everything that they talk about in there is exactly the playbook that Glenn and leadership is using to run the number one brokerage on the planet. So a couple things there to to kind of get your head around what you need to be consuming, how you need to be thinking about things as we navigate into the second half of the year. So, Kathy, I'll pause right there for any questions, anything that we have. Then I can kind of talk about the 8 stages and different phases of real estate, the real estate model moving into the second half of the year.
Guys, y'all have any questions for John up to this point?
Hey, listen, I'm used to this. I usually get the deer in the headlight looks because I get the wheels spinning. So I felt good about that after listening to Tim Grover talk. And I don't know if you guys know who Tim Grover. He was Michael Jordan's coach before he became Kobe's coach. Relentless and Winning, just a couple other great books. But he said, listen, if y'all are chirping, or if you're like, I know I got you when you're quiet. The 8 stages we developed back in 2010, 2011, 2012 timeframe. And, that was our experience, obviously, in Oklahoma, working with a lot of the top, agents on the planet at that time, and really just kind of what we were seeing and what we are experiencing. And they still are as true then as they are, today as they were then. It's one of those timeless resources to be able to go back into. So what I've seen and known over the years is that they kind of fall into 3 phases. So just kind of take inventory of where you're at and kind of where you want to go. It's also a great resource if you're trying to recruit somebody or bring somebody in, or, kind of get a gauge of where they're at and how you can help solve their problem, right? EXP is like a buffet. And depending upon kind of where you're at and what you're trying to do determines what part of the buffet you go to at that time. So this is just really good about awareness. Remember, it's two points: where you're at and where you want to go. And you got to be brutally honest, right? All progress begins with telling the truth. So being really brutally honest of where you're at. And once we know that and where you want to go, like I said, then we can put the plan in place to be able to get there. So just use this as kind of a guide, and I'll be able to I'll give you guys the 8 stages after this if you want a copy of it. But phase 1. So this is typically 0 to 6 figures, right? And you ask any new agent coming into the business, what do they always say? How much money do you want to make? What do they always say? I want to make 100,000. That's just default. I don't know if that's just a default programming answer. Getting into real estate, I want to make 6 figures. So this is really that first phase, and where you have to focus in this phase from 0 to 6 figures. You got to learn how to sell, right? You got to build basic disciplines. You got to do the things that you don't want to do on the days that you really don't want to do it. And then you start to figure out what works, right? What works for you. What are the core pillars, the core foundation that you're going to build your business on? And the enemies that you want to overcome in this phase are bad habits, right? Lack of structure and working without a plan. Get a dang plan in place. If you guys have read Atomic Habits, he breaks down a study in there that they did with people, three different groups, right? One, it was a fitness exercise, a fitness test that they had figured, they wanted to run this test. And, the first one was a group that just had a plan, right? Then a group that just showed up and had some accountability. No plan. But the group that had a plan and accountability obviously did the best. So having a damn plan, get a plan, and have some structure and focus on good habits, right? And understanding what the good habits in this business are, and understanding that there's only a handful of things that you can do that are within your control. That's always the question to ask. Is this within my control? And that's showing up, that's engaging, that's, talking to people, that's setting appointments. It's really about 4 or 5 things that's within your control in this business. So focusing on the good habits. And so what that does on the 8 stages, that's stage 1 and stage 2. So that's the solopreneur, your pains. Typically you don't have clarity, no leads, lack of experience, no guidance, no mentorship. And really the X factor is the environment you are in daily. That drives everything. That second conveyor belt example that I gave you, the results framework, what starts it, right? It's environment and circumstance drives everything. It's the people you surround yourself with. We hear it all the time, right? Like, if you hang around, 10 broke dudes, you're going to be the 11th broke dude. So it's just leveling up your circle. That's the biggest jump that you can make. And especially where I feel where AI's at, the noise on social, I really truly believe the smaller tribes in person, knee to knee, is the direction. It's going to be smaller, not massive, but it's people getting together because it's so hard to trust from afar. That's why getting close proximity and proximity to people that are going to level you up to where you want to be. So it's phase 1. Phase 2 is kind of that seeker phase. So if you still have lack of leads, maybe you're starting to spend some money on things that don't work. Income, you're on the roller coaster, super inconsistent, no clear plan, right? That's showing up again. Confidence is low. The reason confidence is low is because you're not winning. If you start winning, confidence will grow. That's all it is. And to get confidence, you got to commit. You can't be interested in this business, right? Interested is just a hobby. There is no room for hobbyists in this business right now. You're either committed, right? And I don't believe you figure it out and then commit. I believe you figure out what it is that you want to accomplish, and then you ask yourself, is that something I'm willing to commit to? Am I willing to commit to X number of conversations that I need to have every day? Am I committed to going on face-to-face X number of appointments I need to every week, right? Am I committed to do those things? I'm not asking you to be obsessed. I'm asking, are you at least committed? Once you commit, then you got to have the courage, right? Courage is like putting it out there, putting it on the line. Once you start to, you have the courage, then you start to develop the capabilities, the things that you need to develop, the skill sets to be able to win and build your confidence. And the X factor here is just strong people skills, right? Like Kyle said it, he was so funny. He's like, dude, if you don't like people, don't build a team. That was the first thing that he said in our conversation. He's like, if you don't like people, don't build a team. And so really ask yourself, like, should I even be in this business if I don't like people? So that's kind of the first 2 stages in the first phase. So the second phase is then going to be the 6 to 7 figure run. Okay. That's the emerging talent. That's, we're on, a trajectory to really building a business that only 3 to 5% of businesses ever get to, which is $1 million in revenue. The focus here is consistency, right? Just showing up every day. That's the muscle, right? That's how you weather the storm, is just consistently showing up, doing the activities, the necessary required activities to get the result. You got to lock in routines. You got to learn how to attract business, not chase it. The litmus test for a good strategy is the phone ringing. If your phone's not ringing, then you don't have a good strategy. You need to keep tweaking and nailing in the strategy to make the phone ring. And that could be the form of DMs. Hey, hey, so-and-so told me to reach out to you. Hey, I see what you're doing. Love to have a conversation. That's how you attract and stop chasing. Enemies here, guys, what you have to avoid is the SOS, right? Shiny object syndrome. We've got to stay away from that. And the reason is that when we fall into the shiny object syndrome is that we're trying to do too much. Remember, you don't die from starvation. It's just you typically die from trying to consume too much. Less is more. Less than more of that thing. Having a clear direction and being busy versus being productive. My definition, if you're being busy versus being productive, are you getting results? If you're getting results, you're being productive. If you're not getting results, you're just being busy. So figuring that out. So that takes us into stage 3. So stage 3, 4, and 5 are going to be in this phase 2 of that emerging from 6 to 7 figures. Consistency in revenue, not enough leads, investing in lead generation systems that don't work, stuck in create the sale, service the sale cycle, right? We've all been victims of that. Not clear on what to do next. And then the X factor is focus on getting listings. Go get the listings. Like I promise you here, listen, I promise you would rather have 100 listings than no listings at all. So that just gives you the leverage. Listings. Like you wake up, you go to sleep, you're thinking about listings. What do motivated sellers want in this market right now? What's my offer to them? How do I get listings? Hustler phase, still not enough leads. Not enough of the right qualified motivated leads, doing all the work, lack of systems, processes, follow up, right? Like just follow up, right? Can get you way down the road if you just follow up with people. And then you get into the hiring game, right? Now you start to add pieces to the board. And honestly, this is about where the game changes in stage 4 to 5. The game changes. And understand the board is the same. The pieces just change when we go from checkers to chess. You start getting specialized. When you get about 5 people, that's kind of where the game starts to change because the game for you now becomes leadership. That's the game. And remember, your business is in direct proportion to the size of your leadership capabilities. If your business is not where you want it to be, it's because you're not where you need to be. As an individual, as a human, as a leader, you're not there. And that's where you've got to focus. Personal development is still the number one, right? You should have a line item on your P&L that is allocated to personal development, be it coaching, be it mentorship, be it at events, be it training, be it whatever it is. And Jim Rohn, 10%, right? 10% of your revenue allocated to your budget of personal development. You want to make $1 million, you better be spending $100,000 on personal development, coaching, training, mentorship, guidance. And we did that. That's the only reason we were able to get to the level that we've been able to get to is because like I will spend money I don't have to be able to get the right guidance, leadership, coaching, training, programs, books, whatever it is that's going to help me move to where I want to go. The X factor here is you're doing things that are below your hourly rate, right? Does everybody on here understand what your hourly rate is? One of the best books is Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. Like if you're struggling with doing things that you know you shouldn't be doing, it's because you need to get those things off of your plate. And so Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time, is the playbook. If you understand the who, not how concept from Dan Sullivan, the how to execute on that the right way is Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. So the X factor here are low leverage activities off your plate, high leverage activities. Entrepreneur phase, like I said, this is the game change. It's all leadership. So chaos, lack of systems, managing people, hiring, yes, recruiting agents, always bringing talent to you. And the factor here is your brand presence, okay? And all brand is just your reputation. Right? What do people say about you when they hear your name? What do they think? What is going through their mind? That's your brand. That's your brand presence. And then, like I said, 3 to 5% of of small businesses. What are there? 600,000 businesses, something like that. Small businesses, 3 to 5% only make it to this phase. And this is hiring talent, foundational systems, and protecting your time and energy. That's super, super important to remember. And if you go through Buy Back Your Time, Martell is talking about that all the time. Energy, 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 your energy management, spending on things that energize you, don't rob you of it, that make your business the most amount of money. That's the quadrant that you want to move towards. Your enemies, complacency, right? I've seen it so many times that agents get to this point, foot off gas, and then they get lapped, right? I'm just of belief that you're either growing or dying. Complacency is not growth. Content, hey, I'm good, right? Like, I don't understand that. Like, my brain just doesn't function on, man, I'm good. Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand that. And then that false confidence. Man, dude, I made it, right? I've been there, right? We fell into that trap. So this is that phase. And then it really moves you into the visionary, recruiting, value, making sure, not losing top talent. Thank goodness for EXP, right? Because your top talent now will come out the top, but they still stay a part of your organization. Getting the right business model, and then moving into, that freedom phase, right? Because, we go through different phases, right? We go from survival to status to freedom and to legacy. And, when you're designing and building your business, guys, like, listen, only one goal in business, and that's to get to freedom. And what is that freedom for you is so important to really understand what it is that you're doing all of this for. So if you guys, you don't get there by working harder, right? You earn it by becoming the person who leads differently, thinks clearly, and executes without excuse. Execution is everything once you have the plan. And remember, you have to become better for your business to be better. So if you guys want a copy of the 8 stages, you can hit the QR code, or you can go to the8stages.com and download a copy. Get a copy of that. So what is your perfect day? Okay. So if you guys haven't gone through the perfect day exercise, if you go to YouTube, type in Frank Kern, Kern, Frank Kern, perfect day. It's going to take you to about a 7.5 minute video, which is a segment out of his core influence presentation. Now this is Surfer Frank. This is Frank long hair, like days. So it goes way back. And if you guys don't know, Frank is the OG. He is the godfather of internet marketing. He is the guy. Like everything, like everybody, what everybody does online right now came from Frank Kern. And so he talks about the concept of your perfect day, which all it does is it pulls out your core identity. It pulls it out. So essentially the exercise is the second you wake up, you have consciousness until you fall asleep. The last thought that you have before you fall asleep. What happens during that day? And, it's Groundhog Day. You have to live that day over and over and over again. And you can't do something that you can't have the purge, and you can't do something, you can't climb Mount Everest, right? You can't do something that can potentially lose your life. So, everybody that I've ever worked with, they have to do this exercise, the perfect day exercise. And the first time I did it, it's just brain dump, right? Just brain dump, just let it go. 17 pages, right? As you think through the whole day. In Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time, he talks about Oprah Winfrey's day. Oprah is living her perfect day. And if you're honest with yourself, everybody works 2 to 4 hours. When you do this exercise, everybody works 2 to 4 hours. So it's then like, well, who am I working with? What problems am I solving? And so like the example that he gives in Buy Back Your Time with Oprah, she works 2 hours every day. Now, she sips rosé in her garden at lunch. She works out twice a day. But she works for 2 hours. She only solves $100,000 problems. That's it. In her 2 hours, the only thing they're talking about is it has to be more than $100,000 or more problems, or she doesn't talk about it. So the perfect day exercise. The other is, what is your freedom number? How much money do you need to have coming in that you're not trading time for dollars to have? Everybody has a number. Everybody has a number. And so I take everybody through Tony Robbins' absolute financial freedom exercise. And it's 6 steps that you have to go through. And you get to that last step, which is absolute financial freedom. So it's like whatever life you want to live, all the toys, all the travel, all the golf memberships, all of the timepieces, all of the, exotic cars, if that's your thing, whatever it is. How much money do you need to have coming in every year, every month that you're not trading time for dollars coming in to be able to live that life? Everybody has a number. So I make everybody figure that out. It's 2 things. Your dollar and your perfect day. That's my definition of freedom.
Out here on the grind, chasing dreams in the sun. From the Gulf to the hills, yeah, we're getting it done. We don't cold call,